It's important for you to learn how to gain followers from someone who's gained followers compared to someone who has no followers. It is about the experience, the trial and error. You need theory and results. I didn't always have a large readership or viewership. The thing is, with human nature, we see someone with a lot of followers or authority as if they were born like that. That's who they are. It's part of their identity to us. We can't always fill in those gaps. The gaps where the people we follow and learn from started somewhere. They started at 0 too. They are human after all, just like us, just like me and you. Now, I started my social media journey more than 10 years ago on Instagram with a BlackBerry. Back when Instagram looked like nothing like it does today. It was a place for photos only. That's where I began. I spammed hashtags people recommended, hoping to get 100,000 followers, but I saw very little growth, maybe 5 followers a week. Now, after 2 years, I had 120 followers. I remember that day so vividly. I posted photos I thought was decent. Not with my BlackBerry. I eventually got a camera that was probably worth $20. It was alright for its time. As shiny object syndrome goes, I became more interested in the editing aspect of photography. I began to learn Lightroom and Photoshop. I enjoyed editing more than actually going out and taking the photos. I began following photographers who posted the most surreal images. It looked almost dreamlike. That's when I learned that they did Photoshop a little bit, not in a bad way. They were creating pieces of art. It's something you can just stare at and get lost in. It's the most beautiful images. I would binge hundreds of YouTube videos to learn how to do it, and eventually I was able to put a few things together. They are alright, it's something, but it meant very little to me because I've been fooled by social media in order to get followers, but nothing happened. So I was a bit underwhelmed. That's where I learned the foundation of being successful in a creative space, at least from my perspective. There are countless others. Take from this what you will. After posting those images and getting nothing from it, I went back to just basic photography because I received something from the process. It meant a lot to me, even if I only received 5 likes. But I realized as someone who wants to grow in the creative space, I need more eyeballs, but I didn't want to do what others are doing. I wanted to do my own thing, but I want it to be seen. So, okay, how do I do that? Step 1, what do you do? What do you make? And for me, it was nature photography. Step 2, how many people know what you do or make? At the time, it was not a lot. And step 3 was, how valuable is the thing that you do to the people who know what you do? Did it have value? I'm not sure. That was something I had to figure out. So if it's not valuable, how do you make it valuable? That's the marketing and sales aspect of it. And I know for all the creatives out there, to hear the word marketing is just hang on a sec. I thought and felt exactly the same until I began building my following, which became an audience, which became a valuable community. Now, when I put something out there and you receive value from it and you let me know in the comments or in an email, it sparks so much joy. That is what propels me forward to double down on the value. Anyway, back to my story. That day when I had 120 followers, I made the decision to not just take photos for my own enjoyment, but to also build my following. In the first month, I was able to jump from 120 followers to 1,000. How? By taking and editing photos I liked, but with a curated caption and strategic and relevant hashtags. For anyone who has grown something on social media from nothing, you know how difficult it is to get those first few followers. People don't like to follow people with a low follower count. The more followers you have, the more you get. That's the pure basics. The thing that changed everything by being active and engaging in my niche of photography space. By following people who were on my level, who roughly took the same type of photos. Also by engaging with them, by liking, commenting and DMing them. They then began showing my photos to others, and they did that again and again and again. I did the same. It wasn't really a tit for tat. I became so active in that specific space that it came so naturally. If I saw a photo or found a photographer who I resonated with, I told them. I left a long, thoughtful comment. I DM'd them and I let them know. I asked what equipment they used and why. I asked what their creative process is like. This just all began to snowball quite quickly. I didn't just talk to people, but big organizations as well. One of my photos were featured on Samsung's page only because I was engaging actively in the community. Keep in mind, this is what the world and social media was like back then in 2015. People were much more open to communicate and collaborate with others. This entire process led to me gaining 70,000 followers on Instagram. That felt great. It was incredibly great for marketing purposes because I was able to work on projects with major brands. Unfortunately, about a year ago, the account was hacked and disabled. It's sad, but what remains are the skills and knowledge. I haven't returned much to Instagram as it's not the same as it once was. It's full of, well, everything right now. Yes, there's still beautiful photos and videos, but it's also filled with so much everything. It has become too business oriented and too much TikTok shorts and reels about silly dances and political. It's not what it once was, which is why I started a website instead and began uploading my photos and videos on there, as well as writing articles where I began sharing my knowledge about photography and digital marketing. And I've grown that email list to over 20,000 so far. And I still do the same. I still follow the same strategy. That's why I encourage so many of you to comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let's start a conversation. Let's see where it leads. Maybe one of you are doing something I find interesting and we can collaborate and I can pass some of my audience to you. You never know until you engage with people. It's not just about liking something and moving on, but engaging. So leave that comment, send that email, and grow together. Iteration. Unless you already have previous experience on growing on social media, you'll have to post a lot before being able to grow, unless you are incredibly lucky from the start. For example, when I started with photography, I set a goal to post once a day. It was all about volume. The first 100 photos sucked. There were a handful of them that were not too bad, but most of them sucked. But with time, I was able to learn and grow. Another example is writing. When I started my website, I also set the goal of writing a piece of valuable content every day. My writing wasn't the best, but I was learning and developing the skill, and I learned where the attention was. Some articles received 100 views, some 1,000 views, and some 30,000 views. Why were some articles getting so much more attention? Was it the writing style? Was it the grammar? Or was it the topics? Yes, the topics. How do I know? Comments, feedback. People / my audience commented and said, I love this explanation or insights. Fantastic. So I did it again. Same result. Now I have a much better idea in which direction to go in. Every now and then I will put something out I might find interesting, but not my audience. That's fine. At least it's out there. Some people found it valuable, but not many. Sometimes there is a small aspect of it people found interesting, and I'll add that to what is already doing well. I know many of you are creators or writers, or you are also creating videos on YouTube, sharing your insights and your valuable experiences. Let me know down below about your journey of growing your audience. Study your best performing content. Recreate them from different perspectives. If you have a piece of writing that did exceptionally well. There's something there people resonate with really, really well. Give them more of that. When you rewrite it, you begin to understand the absolute core value people received from that piece of information. So refine it, polish it. Eventually you will find a gem and it can put you on the map, so to speak. And what is this all about? My favorite part, the process. Sharing insights, receiving feedback, reevaluate, rewrite, share, repeat, growing. It's all about that process. Fall in love with that process. Get lost in that process. Find that flow, and eventually you'll get there. Where? That place where you desire to be. And when you get there, you might realize you've always been there. Because when you get to the top of the mountain, you realize it was never about the peak of the mountain. You enjoyed the climb much more. Luckily, there is always a higher mountain to climb. So we set our direction to that mountain and climb it. Not to conquer the mountain, but to focus on the process of climbing it. The struggle, the pain, the rain, but also the breathtaking views and butterflies and flowers we see along the way. Nowadays, the most powerful people are those who hold the most attention in their whole life. Keep it in this context, don't deviate too far. If you have people's attention, what you say affects and changes and influences them in some way or another. This can be done in many different ways, shapes, and forms. A very, very simple way is engaging with others through comments or replies. When you read an interesting article or watch a video that brings you value, share some of your experiences on that topic. Be thoughtful. Don't just say something to say something. If what you're sharing is also valuable, people will click on your profile and look at your website or channel. Maybe the person who you are replying to replies to you and you begin a conversation. This boosts your reply even more and increases the odds of people looking at your profile. Now, please don't go spam other accounts and say, Hannes told me to do this. Be thoughtful, be genuine, be authentic. I'm sure there has been many times when you watched or read something and immediately thoughts come up about your own experiences. You just didn't take the time, or you didn't muster up the courage to share that. But when you do, it can be incredibly fruitful. Maybe that reply sparks the idea for your next piece of content. Who knows? And that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed these insights, and we'll talk again in the next one.